Hello guys, how are you doing? I hope you're doing fine. Myself, I'm doing great over here. Now guys, the visa bulletin for the month of October 2023 has been released, and there's some little concern that we need to go through regarding this visa bulletin. Now with me is this page where we get the visa bulletin, and I'm going to the diversity visa section, and here we are. But first of all, let's look on the previous cutoff numbers for the previous visa bulletin. That was the visa bulletin for the month of September. And we know that that visa bulletin for the month of September, it affected the interviews that are scheduled for the month of October. So in this visa bulletin for the month of October affects the interviews that will be scheduled for the month of November. That one you should have known by now. But let's compare. So when we look on the last visa bulletin, that is for the month of September, that affects the interviews for the month of October, we see that the cutoff numbers were, as you can see here, 10,000 for Africa with these exceptions, and 2,000 for Asia with the exception of these countries, 4,500 for Europe and with these exceptions, and so on. This was the past visa bulletin. Now, the current visa bulletin for the month of October has these cutoff numbers: 10,000 for Africa, 2,300 for Asia, 5,000 for Europe, and so on. So what you immediately notice is that for Africa, nothing has changed. It has not increased. For Asia, it has already increased, but by a very slight increment. And the same case for Europe, just by some few hundreds. And now the question comes, why so? Why has there been just a slight increase, if at all there has been an increase? And why is it that Africa has not increased even by a little bit? That's what I'm going to discuss on, because I know now we have many questions in the minds of the winners, because they are worried, especially so since they have seen how it went with the DV Lottery 2023. And therefore, it should be a point of alarm. But should you get alarmed? Should you panic? That's what I want to discuss here. Why has it not changed? Now, the first thing, let's go step by step. The very first thing that you should know, and importantly know it, is that for the cutoff numbers, it does not mean that there are as many DV winners as the cutoff number. What do I mean? I mean, if we take example of this first one, Africa, we see the cutoff number is 10,000. It does not imply that there are 10,000 cases under this cutoff number. No, not at all. In fact, within this 10,000 cutoff number, you might find there are fewer DV winners. Maybe we have about like between 5,000 to 6,000 cases, and the rest are holds. There is no one there. So under the cutoff number, you might find even fewer cases that are scheduled for the interview. Now, why has it not changed, having known that? Let's start with Africa. It has remained on 10,000 as the cutoff number, and we've seen that we can have round about 5 to 6,000 individual cases within that number. Now, within those cases under this cutoff number, you might find out, and this is correct, that Of those cases, KCC might not have processed all of them. No. You might find among that example of 6,000, they managed only to process fully around 2,000 cases. And those 2,000 cases are the cases that have been scheduled for the interview for October, and they have already received their second notification letters. The remaining about 4,000 in this example then will have their DS260 form processed, and then they will be scheduled in the following month, that is the month of November. And that is to mean, even without increasing the cutoff number, it is sufficient enough to have cases scheduled still under the cutoff number for the month of November. And that speaks of why the cutoff number has not changed. Have you understood that? So the reason as to why the cutoff number has not changed is because of all the cases under the cutoff number. You might find out that KCC could not be able to process all of them. They processed some of them, and those processed, they were scheduled for the interview for the month of October. And the remaining cases that had not been processed, then they processed them and they are scheduled for the month of November. And those cases are still under 10,000. So there is no need for them to increase the cutoff number. Yet they can suffice the numbers to be scheduled for the month of November even within the 10,000 cutoff numbers. So that is the reason. And it also applies to Asia and Europe and other regions. You see that for Asia, just a slight increase from 2,000 to 2,300. It's because you find out within the last cutoff number, 2,000, not all the DS260 forms of those individuals had been processed. And of those whose DS260 forms were processed, they were scheduled for the month of October, and 2NLs have been sent to them. But the remaining ones, still under 2,000, that had not been processed, they were pushed forward to the month of November. And when they were pushed to the month of November, only a small number of cases were to be added. And that's why only a slight increase in the cutoff number was placed for Asia. Same case apply to Europe and to the other regions. I hope you have understood that well, because that is the major reason as to why the cutoff number has not changed for Africa and has slightly changed for other regions and has not changed for the North America. You should understand that in this visa bulletin, and should it cause an alarm? Not at all. It should not cause any alarm. Why? Because let me explain another very important phenomenon that you will realize from the past history of the DV programs that within the lowercase numbers of the selectees, you'll find out that there is a high concentration of winners within the lowercase numbers than you will find in the high case numbers. Let me take an example. You'll find that for Africa, between case number 1 and 30,000, you'll find there is a huge concentration of winners within that gap. And above 30,000, all the way to the highest case number, there are fewer selectees, fewer winners within that range. And that means that having a high concentration of selectees within the low case numbers, within the first months of a fiscal year, you'll see just slight increment in the cutoff numbers from one visa bulletin to the other, because there is a high density of winners within the low case numbers. But as the months progress, when we are in the middle of the fiscal year, towards the end, then you'll find out that from one visa bulletin to the next, the cutoff number will increase with a huge range, with a huge number, because the density of the selectees within those high case numbers, they reduce. So the density, let's say per 1,000 of selectees in the lower case numbers is high as compared to the density of selectees per 1,000 in the high case numbers. And therefore, you'll see within the first months of a fiscal year, there will be slight increments on the cutoff numbers in those visa bulletins. But as we go towards the middle and the end of the fiscal year, then the cutoff number from one visa bulletin to the next, we will have a huge increment in the cutoff numbers. Have you understood that aspect? Because you should understand that. And I don't see if I have any other to explain, but as more information rolls in, we shall keep updating you. So don't forget to hit that notification bell after you have subscribed. By hitting the notification bell, it means that every time I post a video, you will receive a notification to watch it. Like the video as well, and let's meet in the next video.